All right, joining me now here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show are Katie Valentine and Emily Atkin. Emily and Katie are reporters for the climate section of Think Progress, which is called Climate Progress. You can find it at thinkprogress.org. You can also find both of them on Twitter at Katie R. Valentine and M or We. Katie, Emily, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
All right, so Katie, Emily, we've covered the West Virginia chemical spill that contaminated the water supply of 300,000 plus people, much of it coming from both of your reporting on this. But you both recently wrote a really in-depth piece at Think Progress on the history of pollution and poverty that surrounded the latest spill. Let's begin by going in and discussing the poverty in West Virginia and how that actually contributed to the environment that led to this latest spill.
Poverty in West Virginia is something that, you just can't ignore it when you're talking about something that's a culture in West Virginia. So if you talk about pollution as a culture, because pollution happens, widespread throughout West Virginia, this incident wasn't the only time that a widespread pollution event has happened. You kind of have to talk about poverty because it's the second poorest state in the nation. And most of that poverty is in the rural areas, which houses the most coal and chemical industries. And it's hard to separate because when you have an area that's extremely polluted, it becomes difficult to make that area more affluent. So the poverty itself being in a polluted area, coal mining area, mountaintop removal area, areas that have been polluted for years that people can't drink their water, who that is affluent is going to want to move there. Who becomes affluent is going to be able to sell their property. It creates a vicious cycle. That there was one woman that we spoke to that lived in West Virginia her whole life, and she said, you keep people poor, you keep them desperate. Those people who are poor in those areas, they need those jobs from the chemical and coal industries because that's all they have there, and that's all that will be there, because what other businesses want to move into those polluted areas? So you have to talk about poverty when you talk about the culture of pollution in West Virginia.
I don't know if that was Katie or Emily.
That was Emily, sorry.
That was Emily? Okay, Katie, do you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, it was interesting to look at because, the spill did affect a lot of people in West Virginia, not just the poor. Since it was in Charleston, a lot of the more affluent people were affected by it. But the most kind of interesting thing that we found was that the poor people that live near these mountaintop removal sites, the water bans are actually really common for them. We talked to people that said that their water has run orange, it's run black. They can't drink their well water anymore. They haven't been able to drink it for years. So they're really used to this pollution coming down from those mountaintop removal sites, and they're used to not being able to drink their water. So in some cases, it made them a little less likely to not drink their water once this most current ban was in effect, because they were just so used to it that they didn't think it was as big of a deal. So that was really compelling, we thought, just the fact that, these things are so commonplace in this state.
Yeah, that was a really frightening aspect of that they live such under a constant, they're getting on these constant water warnings, and they're living in that, and you have to shower, you have to, you have to drink water, and so they live under constant. So when this latest spill happened, which was a very serious spill, a lot of these people in those poorer areas that are constantly under that pressure just entirely ignored it. That's wild. And what's even crazy, and like you guys wrote a bunch of statistics on poverty in West Virginia, and the numbers are staggering. Again, it's the second poorest state. 17.8% of the population lives in poverty. 47% of children in West Virginia live in low-income families. It really is when you have that scenario where you're talking about people who poor people who don't really have access to politicians, who don't have access to of resources to actually fight this kind of thing. It really is horrific that these people are being taken such advantage of.
I don't even think that a lot of people, well, I think that that's not accurate to say. What I was going to say was that maybe people don't even realize that they're being taken advantage of, but they definitely do. People are very upset, and people want change, but it's so hard. This is just how things have been. I think the reason that I was about to say that they don't realize they're being taken advantage of, which is inaccurate, is just because people use the water. I mean, people just use it. They shower in it. They don't feel anything, and that might just be a product of just being used to it. But just because someone's used to it doesn't mean they don't want it to change. And I think that we definitely had an resounding just thought from everybody that we want this to not be like this. We want to be able to drink our water. We want to live in our beautiful state the way it's supposed to be.
Right, and a lot of the people we talked to were hoping that, because this bill has gotten such national attention, and because it did affect the more affluent people of Charleston and even some state representatives, that this might be a wake-up call for West Virginia lawmakers to, enact more regulation on the chemical industry. So far, we're not sure if that's going to happen, but, people were hopeful that would happen.